Hi, I'm Harold Enger from SpringGreen, and I'm going to be talking to you about some of the warm season grasses that are most often found in home lawns in the warm season areas of the United States. Those grasses are Centipede, St. Augustine, Bermuda Grass, and Zoysia grass. The first grass we're going to look at is this lawn of Centipede grass. Now, Centipede was introduced to the United States in the early 20th century, and it came from Southeast Asia. It has good adaptability to low fertile soils and produces a nice green lawn. It's often called the Granny Smith apple green color lawn. It's not that deep, dark blue-green lawn that a lot of people are looking for. Now, one thing that is important with any type of grass is the correct mowing height. Probably the most important thing you can do on keeping your lawn looking good. Now, for Centipede grass, you should mow it at about 1.5 inches to 2 inches. Higher when it gets real hot, like it is today. A very hot day, have it mowed higher. Now, as far as watering goes, most turf grasses need about 1 inch of water a week in order to stay green and healthy. You want to wait until you actually begin to see the turf beginning to dry out. You'll notice that by sort of these purplish color areas that will begin to develop in a lawn. Now, for the most part, as you can see here, the lawn is a very thick, nice looking lawn. It does produce what are called stolons, and that's how it grows. It produces these above the ground runners that go across and reroot. It's a very aggressive growth habit, will cause a lot of thatch to build up in a lawn. So it's important that the lawn be aerated every year to keep that thatch layer down. If that thatch layer gets too high, what can happen is that the roots will not get down into the soil, and you can be open now to more disease, weed, and insect infestation, along with cold problems, because the grass isn't very good with cold weather during the wintertime. In fact, it can have a lot of dieback during very cold winters. So it's important to keep those roots growing as healthy as possible. Now, the next type of warm season grass that we're going to look at is St. Augustine. Now, St. Augustine is a very nice warm season grass, and it is believed to be brought in from the Gulf of Mexico and the Mediterranean. It's well adapted to the heat and humidity, especially along the coastal areas of the United States. A lot of people have difficulty determining the difference between St. Augustine and Centipede. Now, Centipede grass has a lighter green color. If you remember our first part of this video, it's that Granny Smith apple green color, where St. Augustine has a darker green color and the blade is quite a bit wider than your Centipede grass. Now, I chose this particular spot because it's a shady spot. It's a hot day, but it's also, St. Augustine is probably the best grass adapted for shady areas, but don't take that the wrong way. It still needs about 4 hours of direct sunlight in order to stay growing well. You start reducing that where it's getting very little sun or just some really light filtered sun, and it's going to begin to thin out and not look good. Now, St. Augustine should be mowed at 3 to 4 inches for the more common varieties, but there are some turf varieties that can be mowed at about 1.5 inches to 2 inches. One thing about your warm season grasses, they're very tough, and they can handle the heat and humidity that you get in the southern part of the United States. So they've got a very tough fiber in it, and it will dull a lawnmower much faster. Now, they say that the best type of mower to use is a reel mower. Well, those are hard to find and difficult to use and can be expensive. So most people use a rotary mower. Well, the thing with a rotary mower and a tough grass blade like this is that it will dull that blade pretty fast. So you need to keep that blade sharp, perhaps sharpening it. Well, we would like to see you do it every other week. We would be happy if you did it at least once a month. Then you're going to get a much nicer cut and the lawn will look a lot better. As far as establishing a St. Augustine lawn, most people prefer to sod the lawn. Well, there's some people who will take a longer path by using particular plugs and spacing out across the lawn. It takes a lot longer for that to fill in. It could take up to 2 years before you get a decent lawn, and during that whole period of time you are fighting weeds. So sod seems to be the way that most people go. Our next warm season turf grass is Zoysia grass. As you can see here, it produces a beautiful lawn. very dense, thick lawn that makes it very difficult for weeds to pop through. Now, Zoysia was originally brought over from Japan. There's 3 basic varieties. I won't go into the names of those, but they're widely adapted. There are Zoysia grasses that grow well here in the south, and there are grasses that will grow even up as far as Minneapolis. Won't stay green for very long, but they will survive the cold of the winter even up that far north. Now, for the most part, Zoysia requires typical fertilization for warm season grasses. It does require mowing of about 1.5 to 2.5 inches. We'd rather see it a little bit higher during the summertime, especially when it's getting hot. Your grass will do a lot better. Now, Zoysia grass has some pretty good wear tolerance and can handle a lot of foot traffic, but if it does get worn out where you get bare spots, it doesn't fill in quickly like, for example, Bermuda grass does. So the recovery is much slower. You might have to reseed or resod the areas in order to get them to fill in. Now, because it grows so thick, Zoysia grass does need annual core aeration, or else that thatch layer is going to build up, and then all the roots are going to grow up on top, just like what we were talking about with some of the other grasses. So an annual aeration is very important. Our next warm season grass that we're going to look at is Bermuda grass. A very nice grass, a very dense growing grass that has some particular requirements to take care of it. First of all, Bermuda grass, a lot of people think, well, did it come from Bermuda? No, it's actually native to Africa and was brought over to grow into this type of warm season climate. Heat and humidity. It loves the heat, it loves the hot weather of summer. Now, in the fall and the winter time, it does turn brown in most cases. There's a couple of identifying characteristics. About this time of year, middle of the summer, you often get these seed heads that look like little helicopter blades. And that can be a help to you identify this grass. Now, some of the requirements of Bermuda grass is that it does need to be mowed at a shorter than most grasses. 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches, that will keep it looking good. And you need to stay up with the mowing. If the grass is growing, you need to mow it maybe twice a week, in some cases even 3 times a week, or else you're going to end up with what you see here, the clipping clumps that are leaving it back on top of the ground. You have to stay up with the mowing. It also does need water to stay green, but it can survive a long time without water. In fact, it could probably last an entire summer without any water. That doesn't mean it's going to look good, but it will survive for the entire year. So for more information on any of the warm season grasses, contact your neighborhood lawn care professional at SpringGreen, or you can visit my Ask the Expert blog at spring-green.com.